When my husband, Ryan, told me I wasn't welcome on the Carter family's annual Cape Cod vacation, it felt like the floor dropped out from under me. For 6 years, I'd poured my heart into being the perfect wife and daughter-in-law, hosting 4th of July barbecues in our cramped Boston condo, biting my tongue when Ryan's mom, Linda, called my graphic design gigs cute hobbies, and even dipping into my savings to cover gifts for his cousin's kids. I thought I'd earned my place in their tight-knit clan, but in one gut-punch moment, Ryan decided I was an outsider. "You're too stressed out lately, Sarah," he said over a half-eaten pizza, his voice casual, like he was commenting on the weather. "You just mess up the vibe. Stay home, recharge." My throat tightened, but all I could muster was a weak, "Are you serious?" He just nodded, scrolling through his phone, dismissing me like I was a coworker he didn't vibe with. Alone in our condo, the silence was deafening. I sank onto the couch, staring at the framed photo from last year's trip. Me in the background, holding everyone's beach bags while Ryan and his sister, Emily, grinned front and center. I'd always been the one making sure the cooler was stocked, the Airbnb was booked. The family drama didn't boil over. But to them, I was invisible. I thought back to Thanksgiving, when Linda barely glanced at me while gushing over Emily's new marketing job, or the time Ryan's brother, Nate, laughed off my latest ad campaign as drawing pretty pictures. I'd swallowed it all, thinking if I just tried harder, they'd see me. Ryan's words replayed in my head. Mess up the vibe. Was that really how he saw me? The woman who stayed up late freelancing to pay for his family's Christmas ski trip? I stood and wandered to our bedroom, pulling my suitcase from the closet. My hands shook as I folded a sweater, unsure if I was packing to confront Ryan or to leave for good. I felt humiliated, like I'd been voted off the family island. Had I ever really belonged? I sat on the bed, staring at that damn photo again, my face half hidden behind Ryan's perfect smile. 6 years of trying, and I was still the odd one out. Part of me wanted to scream, to demand answers, but another part, the part that always smoothed things over, whispered to just let it go. I zipped the suitcase shut, my heart heavy with a truth I wasn't ready to face. The family I'd fought so hard to fit into didn't want me. And maybe, deep down, they never had. The Carter family's pre-vacation cookout was in full swing, and I felt like a ghost drifting through the backyard of Ryan's parents' suburban McMansion. The air smelled of grilled burgers and sunscreen, and everyone was buzzing about the Cape Cod trip, beach bonfires, clam bakes, the works, while I stood by the cooler, clutching a soda, invisible. Ryan hadn't looked my way all afternoon, too busy laughing with his sister, Emily, and her friend Lauren. My chest ached from his words last week. "You'd mess up the vibe." I was ready to slip away. Maybe call an Uber, when Jess Harper, Ryan's cousin and the family's resident free spirit, grabbed my arm and tugged me behind the garage. "Sarah, what the hell's this about you not coming to the Cape?" she said, her voice low but sharp, her freckled face set in a mix of concern and defiance. Jess was the odd one out in the Carter clan, always in ripped jeans, with a camera slung around her neck, writing freelance articles instead of chasing a real job like Ryan's lawyer cousins. I barely knew her, but her hazel eyes locked onto mine, demanding the truth. I stammered, "Ryan thinks I'm too stressed, that I'd ruin it." Jess snorted, tossing her braid back. "Bullshit. I overheard him bragging to Emily about keeping things chill by ditching you. It's not about stress, it's about his ego." Her words hit like a slap, and I felt my face burn. She went on, telling me how the Carters had sidelined her for years, calling her dreams flaky because she didn't fit their cookie-cutter mold. "You're not alone in this, Sarah," she said, softer now. "You're coming with me. I've got room in my Jeep, and I'm not taking no for an answer." My heart raced. Defying Ryan could blow up everything. But Jess's fierce loyalty, a stranger's kindness, cracked something open in me. What if he freaks out? I whispered. Jess grinned, all mischief. "Let him. I'll handle the drama." Before I could overthink it, I nodded. Hours later, I was in her beat-up Jeep, the Boston skyline fading in the rearview as we headed to Cape Cod. The road hummed beneath us. and my stomach knotted with nerves, but for the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe I wasn't as alone as I thought. The Carter family's beach house in Cape Cod was straight out of a postcard, white clapboard, wraparound porch, and a view of dunes rolling down to the Atlantic. But as soon as we arrived, I felt the air shift, like I'd crashed a party I wasn't invited to. Ryan's jaw tightened when he saw me step out of Jess's Jeep, his eyes flicking to his mom, Linda, who gave me a tight smile before turning back to unpacking her cooler of rose. "Just keep a low profile, Sarah," Ryan muttered, pulling me aside by the driftwood fence, his voice low but sharp. "Don't stress everyone out." I nodded, my throat tight, already regretting coming. The Carters, Ryan's parents, his sister Emily, his brother Nate, and a gaggle of cousins, swarmed the house. Laughing about lobster rolls and beach volleyball, their voices loud and exclusive like I was a stranger renting a room. Jess, thank God, wouldn't let me fade into the wallpaper. She dragged me into a volleyball game on the sand, ignoring Emily's snarky, "Sarah's not athletic, right?" as she lobbed me the ball. "Spike it, girl," Jess yelled, her grin infectious. And for a moment, I forgot the sidelong glances from Ryan's cousins. But the tension crept back at dinner, a spread of grilled shrimp and corn on the cob under string lights. Linda, sipping her third glass of wine, made a dig about my unstable freelance thing, her tone sweet but cutting. "Not everyone's cut out for a steady career," she said, and the table chuckled, except Jess, who shot back, "Sarah's latest ad campaign was fire, Linda. Maybe check it out sometime." The silence was awkward, and I caught Ryan glaring at Jess, his fingers drumming the table. Later, as the sun dipped below the horizon, I noticed Ryan laughing too long with Emily's friend Lauren, a sleek corporate consultant who fit the Carter mold, polished, connected, Instagram-ready. My stomach twisted, not just with jealousy, but with a nagging suspicion I couldn't name. That night, Jess and I sat on the porch, the ocean's rhythm steady in the dark. "You don't have to shrink for these people, Sarah," she said, her voice soft but firm. "They're all about the highlight reel, not the real stuff." I stared at the waves. Linda's perfect photo ops and Emily's constant bragging replaying in my head. The Carters weren't a family, they were a performance. And I was starting to see how much I dimmed myself to play my part. The Cape Cod sun beat down on the third day, but the beach house felt colder than ever. I was starting to see the Carters for what they were, obsessed with looking perfect, no matter who got stepped on. That morning, while grabbing a towel from the deck, I overheard Ryan and his sister, Emily, whispering by the dunes. "Lauren's killing it," Emily said, her voice smug. "She's the vibe we need. Good call keeping Sarah home. She'd just drag us down." Ryan laughed, low and easy. "Yeah, no baggage this year." My heart sank, the words slicing deeper than his initial ban. He hadn't excluded me because I was stressed. He wanted to impress Lauren, the glossy consultant who fit their polished Carter brand. I slipped back inside, my hands shaking, the truth settling like sand in my chest. Jess caught my expression at lunch and pulled me aside to the porch swing. "Spill," she said, her eyes narrowing. I told her what I'd heard, my voice cracking. Jess's jaw tightened. "That's Ryan," she said. "Always playing puppet master. He once guilted me into skipping a writing gig to help him schmooze some execs. It's all about his image." Her words peeled back years of Ryan's subtle control, how he'd nudge me to dress less artsy for family events or downplay my design work to avoid stealing his shine. I felt like I'd been sleepwalking through my own marriage. That night, during a board game on the living room rug, Linda snapped when I corrected her about a rule. "Sarah, don't hog the spotlight," she said, her smile venomous. Jess fired back. "Funny, Linda. You only notice Sarah when she speaks up. Maybe you're not used to it." The room went quiet, Nate shifting uncomfortably. A few cousins exchanging glances. I couldn't stay silent anymore. At dinner, when Linda asked about everyone's real jobs, I cut in, voice steady. "My last campaign just won a regional design award. It's on billboards across Boston." The table froze, Linda's fork hovering, Ryan's eyes boring into me. I'd never spoken up like that, and it felt like breaking a chain. But later, Ryan cornered me in the hallway, his voice a hiss. "You're embarrassing me, Sarah. Quit showing off." His anger wasn't about me, it was about losing control. As I stood there, the ocean roaring outside, I realized Jess was right. The Carter's perfect facade was cracking, and I was done playing along. The bonfire crackled on the Cape Cod beach, casting flickering shadows across the Carters' faces as they laughed and passed around Desmorais. I sat on a driftwood log, the ocean's roar drowning out my thoughts. But the weight of Ryan's betrayal, his plot to sideline me for Lauren, burned hotter than the flames. All week, I'd swallowed their digs, from Linda's snide comments to Emily's eye rolls. But tonight, something snapped. Ryan, perched next to Lauren, was mid-story, embellishing our life like I was a footnote. When I corrected him about a detail, our anniversary trip he'd gotten wrong, he spun on me, his voice cutting through the chatter. "God, Sarah, can you not be so sensitive for once? You're wrecking the vibe." The group went silent, Linda smirking, Nate staring at his beer. My face burned, but Jess's steady gaze from across the fire gave me a jolt of courage. I stood, my hands trembling but my voice clear. "Wrecking the vibe? Ryan, you banned me from this trip because I'm baggage. You wanted Lauren here to impress your family, not me." Gasps rippled through the cousins. "For years, I've paid for your ski trips, bitten my tongue when your mom called my career a hobby, and dimmed myself to fit your perfect Carter image. I'm done." Ryan's face reddened, but before he could speak, Jess jumped in, her voice like a whip. "She's not wrong. You all prop up Ryan's ego while crapping on anyone who doesn't play along. I've seen it my whole life." A few cousins, Jake and Mia, nodded, their eyes uneasy, while Linda sputtered, "That's unfair." Emily tried to deflect, claiming I was overreacting, but the cracks were showing. Even Nate looked uncomfortable, his usual smirk gone. I didn't wait for Ryan's comeback. "I'm leaving tomorrow," I said, my voice steady now. "I deserve better than this." I turned and walked toward the dunes, the fire's warmth fading behind me. Jess caught up, her hand on my shoulder. "You were badass back there," she said, grinning. My chest ached, part grief, part relief, but as the waves crashed in the dark, I felt free for the first time in years. The Carters could keep their facade. I was done playing their game, and with Jess by my side, I knew I wasn't alone. The drive back to Boston from Cape Cod was quiet, the Jeep's hum blending with the soft indie playlist Jess had on. I stared out the window, the salt air fading as we left the coast behind, my mind replaying the bonfire, Ryan's sneer, my words cutting through the Carters' perfect facade. Jess broke the silence, her voice warm. "You stood up for yourself back there, Sarah. That's not nothing." I nodded, still processing. She shared her own story, cutting ties with a toxic aunt who mocked her writing, finding freedom in choosing who she called family. "Blood doesn't mean loyalty," she said. "Respect does." Her words hit deep, and for the first time, I felt like I could breathe without Ryan's shadow over me. Back in my condo, the silence was different. Not heavy, but calm. I sat on my couch, sketching absent-mindedly, and thought about the years I'd dimmed myself for Ryan. I'd shelved my dream of opening a design studio to fund his family's vacations, nodded along when he called my art cute. No more. My phone buzzed with texts from two of Ryan's cousins, Jake and Mia. "You were right about Ryan," Jake wrote. "We didn't see it."
"Saw the..."
Mia added. "You've got guts." Respect. I smiled faintly, surprised but not swayed. Then Linda called, her voice sugary but sharp. "Sarah, we may have been harsh, but you stirred up drama." I cut her off, calm but firm. "Linda, I'm done apologizing for existing." I hung up, my hand steady. Jess swung by the next day, bringing coffee and her signature grin. Over lattes. We laughed about her latest freelance gig, and I felt a sisterly warmth I'd never gotten from the Carters. I decided then, I was separating from Ryan. The marriage I'd clung to was a cage. built on my silence and his control. That night, I pulled out my sketchbook, drawing bold, vibrant lines for the first time in years. My phone lit up with a text from Jess. "Coffee tomorrow? You're stuck with me now." I grinned, typing back. "Deal." The Boston skyline glowed outside my window, and as I sketched, I felt a spark of something new, myself, coming back to life, surrounded by people who saw me for me. For months after the Cape Cod disaster, my life felt like a canvas I'd finally dared to paint on. I'd moved into a sunny loft in Boston's South End. My freelance design business was booming, and I'd officially separated from Ryan. The Carters were a distant memory, their silence louder than any apology they never sent. Jess Harper, though, was a constant, my rock, my friend, practically family. We'd grab tacos at the food truck by the Common or binge true crime podcasts in her cluttered apartment, laughing like sisters. I'd also reconnected with my own family. My sister flew in for a weekend, and over brunch, she hugged me, saying, "You're glowing, Sarah." For the first time, I believed it. One evening, Ryan emailed a long, half-assed apology, claiming he'd messed up but slipping in excuses about my intensity. I read it, felt nothing, and hit delete. I'd outgrown him, his need to control, his family's fake perfection. I wasn't that woman anymore, shrinking to fit their mold. My new life was vivid, sketching bold designs for a national campaign, hosting game nights with friends who hyped my art, even signing up for a pottery class just for fun. The past still stung, but it was the push I needed to find myself. The night of my first gallery show, I stood in a converted warehouse, my vibrant posters and digital art glowing under spotlights. Jess, in her usual ripped jeans, bounced over, dragging a curator who raved about my work. "Told you you're a badass," Jess whispered, nudging me. Friends and colleagues filled the space, their chatter mixing with indie music. I spotted my sister in the crowd, snapping photos, her grin wide. As I sipped a glass of wine, I thought back to that Cape Cod bonfire. Ryan's betrayal, Jess's fierce loyalty. That trip broke me open. But it also showed me what family really means. People who see you, lift you up, no strings attached. Jess had been my lifeline, proving respect trumps blood every time. I stepped outside. The Boston night crisp, stars faint above the city. My artwork hung behind me, bold and unapologetic, like the woman I'd become. I didn't need the Carters' approval or Ryan's love. I had Jess, my family, my art, and myself. For the first time, that was enough.